Your social life is not a choice, it's a neurological command. The INFJ brain instantly rejects environments that cause 1. Sensory overload. 2. Values conflict. 3. Intuitive chaos. Your mind is an advanced system protecting itself from depletion. Today, we break down the 7 environments your brain instantly rejects, starting now. Before we start, please hit the like button, comment, and subscribe so you won't miss any of our weekly deep dives into the world of personality types. And if you are looking to achieve a deeper understanding of yourself and your personality type, click the link in the comments to take our favorite free personality test. Environment 1. Overstimulating crowded venues. When INFJs enter packed shopping malls, bustling nightclubs, or crowded festivals, their brains immediately shift into crisis mode. Here's the neurological reality. INFJ brains process information to the most extraordinary depth while simultaneously absorbing emotional energy from dozens of people around them. This creates what researchers call cognitive overload, in which your mental processing capacity is overwhelmed by incoming data. The mechanism behind this is emotional contagion. Your brain doesn't just register that there's a crowd. It's unconsciously reading microexpressions, detecting stress hormones in the air, and picking up on the collective emotional state of everyone within your sensory range. You're running dozens of background programs analyzing human behavior while trying to navigate the physical space. Then comes the sensory bombardment. Visual chaos from movement in every direction. Competing conversations create walls of noise. Physical proximity of strangers violates your personal space bubble. Flickering lights and mixed smells create additional sensory input that your brain feels compelled to process and categorize. This triggers what's called a shutdown response. Your nervous system recognizes it's being overwhelmed and starts conserving energy by reducing your capacity to engage socially or think clearly. That's why 30 minutes in a crowded venue leaves you exhausted for hours afterward. Your brain worked overtime to filter through massive amounts of stimuli, depleting your mental resources. The rejection response develops because your brain learns to associate these environments with stress and depletion. It's not that you can't handle crowds. It's that your particular neurological wiring makes crowd navigation exponentially more taxing than it is for people who process information more superficially. Environment 2. Shallow, performance-based social gatherings. This is where most people misunderstand INFJs completely. You don't avoid parties because you're antisocial. You avoid them because they create an impossible situation. Your brain craves meaningful connection, but these environments make authentic interaction nearly impossible. Here's the core conflict. INFJs are wired to detect authenticity versus performance. When you walk into a typical social gathering, your brain immediately starts analyzing who's wearing social masks, who's saying things they don't mean, and who's performing a version of themselves for social approval. This authenticity detection system runs automatically in the background, and it's exhausting. The small talk trap becomes physically uncomfortable. When someone asks, "How's work?" they're not seeking genuine information about your professional satisfaction or career goals. They're following a social script. Your brain recognizes this script as hollow interaction, creating internal tension between your desire to connect and your awareness that no real connection is happening. There's also an energy mismatch happening. INFJs are designed for depth. You want to understand what drives people, what they value, and what challenges they're facing. But social gatherings typically revolve around surface-level exchanges about the weather, television shows, or celebrity gossip. It's like being a deep-sea explorer forced to wade in a kiddie pool. Your brain rebels against this inauthenticity. You can sense when people are performing rather than being genuine. And being surrounded by performative behavior creates physical discomfort. You might notice tension in your shoulders, restlessness, or a strong urge to leave. That's your nervous system responding to the disconnect between what you need socially and what the environment provides. The rejection develops because these gatherings waste your finite social energy on hollow interactions. You'd rather have one meaningful conversation than 10 superficial exchanges. So your brain starts avoiding situations that force you into the latter. Environment 3. Chaotic, unpredictable environments. Here's something that surprises people about INFJs. You're not spontaneous adventure seekers. You need structure to function optimally. This challenges the stereotype of INFJs as free-spirited, intuitive types, but the reality is more complex. Your brain depends on pattern recognition to navigate social situations. You're constantly reading environmental cues, anticipating how interactions will unfold, and preparing responses based on predicted scenarios. When you enter a completely unpredictable environment, this intuitive navigation system gets thrown off balance. Uncertainty creates anxiety because your brain can't do what it's designed to do, perceive patterns and anticipate outcomes. You might feel ungrounded, restless, or overwhelmed when you can't read the situation accurately. This isn't about needing control over others. It's about needing enough predictability to engage your natural strengths. Compare a structured dinner party where you know the guest list and the general agenda to an impromptu gathering where anything could happen. The latter requires constant mental energy to assess and reassess the situation, leaving less capacity for actual social engagement. Your brain needs mental preparation time. When you know what to expect, you can allocate your energy efficiently. When everything is chaotic and unpredictable, you're burning mental resources just trying to orient yourself to the environment. The rejection response develops because unpredictable environments prevent you from operating at your natural capacity. Your intuitive abilities work best with some framework to anchor to. Environment 4. Transactional networking arenas. Networking events represent everything that conflicts with INFJ's approach to human connection. These environments operate on a "what can you do for me" foundation, while your brain seeks genuine relationship building. The conflict in values is immediate and profound. Networking assumes that human interaction should be transactional, that you should present a polished version of yourself to extract professional benefit from others. Your brain, wired for authentic connection and collective well-being, finds this premise fundamentally disturbing. Then there's the elevator pitch torture. You're expected to distill your complex personality, diverse interests, and professional capabilities into a 30-second summary that highlights your value to strangers. For someone who experiences themselves as nuanced and multifaceted, this feels like stripping away everything that makes you who you actually are. Your brain also absorbs the desperate energy permeating these events. Everyone's performing the role of successful professional while internally calculating how each conversation might advance their career. You can feel this underlying desperation and calculation, creating an undercurrent of anxiety beneath the surface pleasantries. The authenticity detector in your brain works overtime in these settings. You're simultaneously trying to present professionally while sensing that everyone else is performing, creating a hall of mirrors effect where genuine interaction becomes nearly impossible. Business card exchanges rarely become meaningful relationships because the foundation is transactional rather than authentic. Your brain recognizes that connections formed in these environments lack the depth and genuineness you need from human interaction. The rejection stems from networking events that waste your precious social energy on hollow professional theater. You'd rather build one genuine professional relationship through meaningful work or shared interests than collect 50 business cards from people performing professional personas. Environment 5. Aggressive competitive workplaces. Here's something that surprises people about INFJs. They absolutely can compete and achieve, but they do it for fundamentally different reasons than most competitive personalities. The problem isn't that INFJs lack drive or ambition. The problem is that ruthlessly competitive environments create profound value conflicts. In cutthroat corporate settings, high-pressure sales floors, or hyper-competitive team environments, success often requires individual advancement at others' expense. People step over colleagues, prioritize personal wins over collective outcomes, and sometimes engage in manipulative behavior to get ahead. For an INFJ whose brain is wired to consider how their actions affect others, this creates constant internal tension. Your brain has what researchers call collective awareness. You're genuinely concerned with the group's well-being, not just your personal advancement. When placed in an environment where you're expected to pursue individual success at the expense of others, Your conscience doesn't just sit quietly, it actively rebels. Consider an INFJ in a sales position where the culture celebrates aggressive tactics and individual quotas above everything else. The INFJ might be fully capable of hitting those numbers, but doing so through manipulation or pressure tactics on vulnerable clients creates what's called moral exhaustion. The external pressure to perform conflicts directly with their internal moral compass. This isn't laziness or lack of ambition. It's a genuine neurological response to operating against your core programming. Your brain is designed to seek win-win outcomes, prioritize long-term relationships over short-term gains, and maintain ethical standards even under pressure. The rejection response develops because these environments force you to compromise your values daily. Over time, the psychological cost of operating against your nature becomes unsustainable, leading to burnout, anxiety, or depression. Environment 6. High drama conflict zones. INFJs have a particular neurological sensitivity to interpersonal discord that goes far beyond normal discomfort with conflict. When surrounded by constant drama, feuding, and interpersonal chaos, your brain doesn't just register that people are upset. It also registers that they're upset. It absorbs and internalizes the emotional turmoil of everyone involved. This happens through amplified emotional contagion. Your empathy system works like a highly sensitive antenna, picking up emotional frequencies from multiple people simultaneously. In high-drama environments, whether it's a dysfunctional workplace, chaotic family gatherings, or friend groups full of ongoing conflict, you're processing not just your own emotions, but also everyone else's anger, frustration, hurt, and resentment. What makes this particularly exhausting is your brain's automatic mediator response. INFJs tend to see all sides of conflicts, understand where everyone's coming from, and feel a responsibility to help resolve the situation. But in structurally dysfunctional environments, nothing can actually be fixed. The conflict is ongoing and systemic. You find yourself simultaneously absorbing everyone's emotional pain while feeling powerless to create any meaningful resolution. It's like being a highly sensitive emotional sponge in a room full of people bleeding emotionally. Your system gets overwhelmed trying to process and contain all that negative energy. The physical toll is significant. Chronic exposure to interpersonal conflict triggers your nervous system's stress response repeatedly throughout the day. You might experience tension headaches, digestive issues, sleep problems, or general anxiety that you can't quite trace to a specific source. The avoidance pattern develops because your brain learns to recognize these environments as emotionally hazardous. You might skip family gatherings where relatives are feuding, leave jobs with toxic interpersonal dynamics, or distance yourself from friend groups that thrive on drama and conflict. Environment 7. Situations requiring constant self-justification. This environment catches many INFJs off guard because it seems manageable. You're intelligent, articulate, and able to explain your thoughts. But there's a specific type of exhaustion that comes from constantly having to defend or justify your perspective to people who process information completely differently than you do. Your brain operates on complex pattern recognition and intuitive insights. You often know something is true or sense the right direction to take before you can articulate precisely why. This isn't mystical or irrational. It's your unconscious mind processing vast amounts of information and presenting you with conclusions based on subtle patterns and connections. The problem arises when you're in environments that demand step-by-step logical explanations for insights that emerge from intuitive processing. It's like being required to show your work on a math problem when you solved it through pattern recognition rather than sequential calculation. Corporate environments that demand extensive justification for creative decisions create this dynamic. Academic settings where your insights are dismissed without detailed empirical support. Relationships where you're constantly asked to explain why you feel something is wrong or why you sense someone isn't trustworthy. The translation process is genuinely exhausting. You're taking complex, multifaceted insights and trying to break them down into linear, logical arguments that people with different cognitive wiring can understand and accept. It's like being required to translate poetry into technical manuals all day long. Over time, this creates what researchers call cognitive translation fatigue. You're not just thinking through problems, you're thinking through issues and then translating your conclusions into a completely different cognitive language. The mental effort required for this constant translation rapidly depletes your energy reserves. The rejection response develops because these environments don't allow you to operate from your natural strengths. Instead of being valued for your intuitive insights, you're penalized for not being able to explain them in ways that satisfy more linear thinkers. The science behind the pattern. The more profound neurological truth is that INFJ brains are wired for depth, authenticity, and pattern recognition. Your neural pathways prioritize thorough information processing over quick, surface-level analysis. You're designed to perceive underlying patterns, detect authenticity versus performance, and maintain awareness of how your actions affect others. These 7 environments work directly against your natural processing systems. Crowded venues overwhelm your capacity for deep processing. Performance-based gatherings conflict with your ability to detect authenticity. Unpredictable chaos disrupts your pattern recognition. Networking events violate your values-based connection system. Competitive workplaces force moral compromise. Drama zones flood your capacity for emotional absorption. Self-justification situations drain energy through constant translation of complex insights. The underlying pattern connects to 3 core mechanisms. Sensory overload occurs when your deep processing system gets overwhelmed by too much simultaneous input. Value conflicts occur when environmental expectations contradict your moral framework. Emotional contagion triggers when you absorb negative emotional energy from others faster than you can process or discharge it. This is intelligence, not weakness. Your brain developed these rejection responses because it learned to distinguish between environments that enhance your functioning and those that deplete your resources. Most people don't have this level of environmental sensitivity, so they can't understand why certain situations affect you so dramatically. Your social energy is finite and precious. Unlike people who process interactions superficially, you invest significant mental resources in every social encounter. Understanding this allows you to make strategic choices about where to invest that energy, rather than spreading it thin across environments that don't serve your well-being. There's an essential distinction between pushing boundaries for growth versus operating against your fundamental nature. Growth happens when you stretch your comfort zone while maintaining access to your natural strengths. Operating against your nature means forcing yourself into situations where your core processing systems can't function effectively. Self-awareness becomes your greatest strength when you understand these patterns. Instead of judging yourself for avoiding specific environments, you can recognize that your brain is making intelligent assessments about where you'll thrive versus where you'll be depleted. Understanding your rejection patterns isn't about limiting yourself. It's about intelligent energy management. When you recognize that your avoidance stems from neurological self-protection rather than character flaws, you can make intentional choices that serve your well-being. If you want to continue the journey to understanding yourself or an INFJ in your life, click either of the following videos where we continue to unlock the secrets of the INFJ personality type.